The rising number of asylum seekers is not just a massively divisive issue in Australia, it's also affecting the country's foreign aid program. 7% of this year's aid budget's being reallocated to pay the cost of the asylum seeker program. And now the government has revealed which aid initiatives will be cut or delayed as a consequence. From Canberra, political editor Catherine McGrath reports.
Australia's developmental aid funds are used to improve conditions in developing countries. But this year there's a change. The Australian government is taking $375 million of its aid budget and spending it on Australia's detention processing network for asylum seekers.
Well, this is an unprecedented raid on a government agency halfway through the financial year. It's not effective aid. It's hard to imagine how you can really assist the poor if another part of the government or the government is swiping hundreds of millions of dollars in the middle of the financial year away from your programs.
The cuts to aid programs are significant. $70.3 million has gone from humanitarian and emergency relief funding. On a national basis, the biggest cut is to the Indonesian program, which has lost $33.5 million, impacting on school construction grants, a women's leadership program and climate change projects.
Okay, how old is he?
The African program, expanded under the Prime Ministership of Kevin Rudd, has now lost $32.5 million.
We may be seeing a winding down of that program as overall pressure on aid increases and with the Security Council bid behind us.
Two countries have been exempt from the cuts, Papua New Guinea and Nauru, the two nations that are hosting Australia's offshore detention facilities for asylum seekers. Australian aid has expanded over the last decade, backed by both sides of politics. It doubled from $2 to $4 billion under the Howard and then Rudd governments, and Labor pledged to double it again to $8 billion by 2015, a commitment it subsequently pushed back by a year. Now it's crunch time, and until budget night in May this year, it won't be clear whether the government will deliver on its promise to increase aid again in line with its earlier commitments, or whether this recent reallocation of funds is an indication of a long-term policy change. The government had promised to give $600 million more in aid funding this year. At recent Senate estimates hearings, Foreign Minister Bob Carr outlined the government's position.
The bottom line is one cannot spend money one hasn't got.
He was questioned by the Greens Party about future spending.
So you can't rule out further cuts to the foreign aid budget in the May budget?
I can't. It's not a cut in the aid. Not a cut in the aid budget. It's looking after refugees on Australian soil in a way that's compatible, in a way that's precisely compatible with the OECD definition of aid. But I can't speculate about future budgets. No minister can.
Professor Stephen Howes is an expert on development policy from the Australian National University.
I hope the government follows through on this, but with the changed fiscal circumstances and with the government's track record of saying it's in favour of increasing aid but sort of deferring that, I think whether we'll see a $600 million increase in the aid budget, I think it's certainly a very open question at this stage.
For the next 12 months, the government will continue to treat the funds reallocated to immigration as aid funds. But to do that, it will also have to meet international guidelines for how this official development assistance, or ODA money, is spent. AusAid has explained part of the process.
The Department of Immigration and Citizenship have now been appropriated that $375.1 million, so it's in their budget. And they're responsible for ensuring that the expenditure meets the ODA guidelines.
The Immigration Department has not outlined yet how the $375 million will be spent on asylum seekers in Australia, nor how they would comply with OECD requirements.
I think so far it's been policy making on the run, and the government needs to come out and be much more transparent and clear about what this change means, and then we can have a proper debate about it.
Australia's asylum seeker detention network has become increasingly expensive. In all, 190 boats with more than 10,000 asylum seekers on board have arrived in Australian waters since August last year.
Well, it's not clear where the government is at this point going to get more hundreds of millions of dollars for ongoing accommodation needs of asylum seekers. Certainly they should not be taking it from the Australian aid program, which is designed to help people overseas that are living in extreme poverty overcome that poverty.
The Foreign Minister has defended the integrity of the aid program.
With a contraction in government revenues, it's been necessary to reprioritise, but our aid budget has grown, and it represents one of the most generous aid programs in the world.
The reallocation of aid funds is only available to the government under current OECD requirements for 12 months.
Political editor Catherine McGrath reporting, and that is all for now. For program information, you can visit our website at australiannetwork.com/